Today on All Minus One, we are going to be talking about the differences in genders. Breaking news, folks, men and women are actually different, despite what you might be hearing in the media. So hold on to your butts, because for the next hour, we're going to be talking about this here on All Minus One. Welcome, folks. This is All Minus One, and my name is Bill. Nice to see you all here. If you're joining me for the first time, then please go check out the links in the description. I am trying to stream elsewhere other than the YouTubes, other than maybe elsewhere where you might be watching me. I'm on Rumble now, live streaming, as well as DLive and Entropy. So you guys can check out those sites. We like Entropy. They're small and it's a free speech platform and you can donate. So if you want to donate any other way, there's a PayPal there, and I do have a Subscribe Star that I don't really use much, but I do have some supporters there. So in any case, let's get into the subject matter of the day because boy, oh boy, boy, oh boy, are we just in a mess, right? We're having a identity crisis in the West because, well, we don't know who we are. We've destroyed our past and we've purposely destroyed it because communists run everything. And maybe they're not full on commies. Maybe there's some sort of synthesis, as communists always do. They synthesize something new like CRT, which is just race Marxism. But whatever you wish to call it, it is in order to demoralize and destroy you and to gaslight you so that you go along with their plans, their new world order, as they like to put it. Embrace caging culture. Violence is life, says. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I don't normally necessarily follow the news stories and try and stream about everything else that everyone else is talking about, but sometimes I do. And it's an important topic to talk about because, well, there is just so many disingenuous people out there. So we might have all have heard of Ketanji Brown Jackson and her Supreme Court nomination and the absurd things that she has said and her dealings with potential pedophiles, at least, people looking at child pornography. But she also said she could not define a woman. And a woman herself, a person who is an individual who is, I don't know, ruling on the court over certain precedences, certain cases that are defined by, women's rights, like the abortion issue. Now, I don't believe in women's rights. I don't believe in gay rights. I don't believe in, any rights aside from human rights. There are not special rights and privileges because you're black or you're gay or if you're Muslim or if you're Christian or whatever. There are no special rights, folks. We all get treated the same under the law, or at least ideally. Hello, Holly. Just got the notification of this. Well, cool. Holly, if you haven't, go check out my Rumble channel. I'm live streaming there right now. Give me a sub, please. Want to help grow that channel because eventually, YouTube will boot me. Maybe not because I don't have that big of an audience as of now, but it's hard to say. So let's get into this whole thing. What did she say specifically? Well, she essentially made the case that we don't know. We can't define what a woman is because I'm not a biologist. Of course, I can tell you, boys have a penis and girls have a vagina. And then USA Today had the nerve to bring this article into print, and it's going to talk about Leah Thomas and all this other stuff. This is all about supplanting women's rights, actually, and actual misogyny from the left. Because anytime a culture becomes highly androgynous and homosexual, women are oppressed. It is not good, straight males who are leaders who are oppressing women, folks. Look at your history and see who actually oppressed women. We can look at the Sambi. They were a tribal people who had some quite strange practices. We can look at the Greeks. The Greeks were all gay at some point and treated their women quite poorly and only used them to breed. So they are trying to say there is no scientific consensus. There is no definition. I'm going to give you one real quick. Right here. XY sex determination system. Straight from Wiki. It's pretty simple, right? Chromosomes dictate whether you are a male or a female. End of stream. All right, guys, it's been nice. I'll be out of here. No, not really. Oh, you got a Rumble too, Holly? Okay, I'll make sure I find it. Um, so here we have XY sex determination system is a sex determination system used to classify many mammals, including humans, some insects, some snakes, some fish, and some plants even. Hmm. In this system, the sex of the individual is determined by a pair of sex chromosomes. Females have two of the same kind of chromosome. XX are called the homogametic sex. Males have two different kinds of sex hormones, and they're called heterogametic. Amazing. Biology, science. Now, maybe you might say, Bill, but gender and sex aren't the same thing. You are absolutely right. Gender is the expression of your biological sex. Some people express that more pronouncedly than others. And some people are a little bit on let's say, a spectrum, right? This is life. Everybody is on some sort of spectrum. It does not mean that there is not a normative value to these things, like, say, 60 to 70% of the population fitting into these categories. Gender, we all know, was a term co opted by John Money, who was a horrible man that abused a child who finally committed suicide because of his horrible experimentation. Now, that idea has been grasped onto, and it was taken from language. You know what the word scabbard is in Greek, or sorry, in Latin? It's the same word that we get vagina from. Do you understand that the scabbard is a female noun that is a sheath for a sword or a knife, and that is, actually imagery of how sex works between a male and a female? This is in our language, folks, for a reason, because again, it is the expression, gender is the expression of our sexuality. It doesn't have anything to do with wearing pink or fashion trends at the time. It's about how you act and behavior, normative behavior. Now, the social scientists will tell you otherwise today, but that's because, well, social science is a pseudoscience. It's not real. Some social science is real, but most of it is a bunch of nonsense, and I'm going to show you some of that here in a bit. In humans, the presence of the Y chromosome is responsible for triggering the male development. In the absence of the Y chromosome, the fetus will undergo female development. In most species, XY sex determination, an organism must have at least one X chromosome in order to survive. Now, there are genetic anomalies. There are people that have things like Klinefelters that have extra chromosomes. Those are very rare people, very rare cases, and we're not talking about them. We're talking about what is normative. What is the standard? And we need to have standards as a society in order to get along, in order to have an identity, in order to know who we are. In order to get from point A to point B, we have to have structure that we can understand to our world to navigate. Don't say normative, say normal. Yeah, well, I could say normal, but I'm not a big fan of that word either. Violence says, "Yes, you here?" Yeah. I'm not going to go on about Yiz's case, but yeah, I mean, she's a friend of ours, and of course, she has that syndrome. So I believe that's what she has. So there you go. So what do we have? What do we have? We have things like this in the media today. This I actually was thinking about covering a few days ago. You can see from March 17th, I had this article queued up in my phone from SciPost. Men are more likely than women to experience strong negative emotions to gender threats. So what is this? What is this article? Well, this article is an assault toward men. Of course, I'm apparently having a strong negative emotion toward this as a man. Um, but yes, they are assaulting men, saying, oh, men are actually the ones, they're the real snowflakes. It's commonly known that threats to masculinity can lead to very negative reactions from men, but do gender threats have similar outcomes when directed towards women? A study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, Social Psychology, aims to answer the question and measures emotional effects of gender threats. Masculinity is a construct that men take very seriously and can be dangerous to challenge. Why is that an affirmative statement? Why is that an affirmation? Why is that a truth, according to this author? That's not a truth. This is cross culturally normative or normal, as violence wants to hear, behavior, right? We know this through personality psychology and cross cultural references. We know that in societies that have the highest levels of egalitarianism, meaning the playing field is equal, and the highest levels of freedom, people actually express their genders, their sexes, the gender expression that is even more pronounced. We find this in data on who goes to what job, what people have interests in, yada yada yada. There are differences. I'm not going to go through all the big five differences and such today. In fact, I have a limited amount of time because I do have to work tonight. But what I will tell you is that the information is out there and very easy to find. And these people assert things that are nonsense. This isn't a construct. I once had a lefty tell me that everyone would be gay or bisexual if we weren't taught not to be. And I thought, what an absurd notion and statement. Now, they were very drunk at the time too, so I didn't really get into it because they were getting kind of aggressive about it. But I'm just like, because those people, there's no reason to cast your pearls before swine. Those people you're not going to convince, right? So leave it be, avoid the confrontation. But I'm like, that's just not true because my junk, not to get all gross on you guys, but it just doesn't work with males. I get really excited around females. It's really funny how that works. So much so that when I was a younger man, specifically, I remember specifically an incident when I was 29, and I right when I started dating this girl, I'd met her that earlier that day and whatever, and my buddy was trying to hook us up more or less. It was a friend of his girlfriend's. I literally was aroused while sitting next to her in a car while we were waiting to go out to a party, a dance club. So it's I've never had that happen to me from sitting next to a man. I'm pretty sure that that's hardwired into my biology, right? I'm pretty sure that's how that works. And men are very visual when it comes to that. In any case, we can go through the whole thing here. Basically, what they're saying is men have the issue with it, and yes, they do. And the reason why men have the issue with it is because we don't have any envy to be women. Women are the ones right now in society that want to be men. It used to be called penis envy. It exists. It's obviously real. These women want to be men. They don't want to be women. We are a dimorphic species who complement each other in our sexes. We have strengths and weaknesses. And that is something that, is important for our struggle together, because if we didn't have those strengths and weaknesses, then we wouldn't need each other and we probably wouldn't reproduce very well. So let's read some quick points here. This is list25.com. 25 biological differences in men and women that aren't commonly known. I'm just going to run through these real quick. There's a YouTube video on this you can find. But right here, most babies are born with birth defects are male. If a female has a defect, it still has a copy, another copy of that X chromosome. You think that that's important, folks? You think that there's a reason why men have more birth defects, have more issues than females, because that X chromosome is protective toward women? Why is that too? On an evolutionary scale, now I don't buy into the full evolutionary arguments, but on an evolutionary scale, let's talk about it in this perspective. Wouldn't you want the women to have a more robust backup system to allow them to thrive and survive than men? Because women can only produce so many children. They are limited in the amount of children they have. They only have so many eggs. And this is the same reason why they have higher value than men. Because if I had 100 women, I could be having 100 babies in 9 months. Just old me. But one woman and 100 men can still only have one baby in 9 months. Pretty simple stuff, but, biology, reality, life, anything good, the left doesn't understand and wishes to destroy. Veins in males tend to be larger. Might have something to do with their athletic capacity as well, right? Males are 4 times more likely to be autistic than females. Wonder why that is. That maybe that genetic buffering that females have with two X chromosomes. Females tend to have more vertical foreheads, while males' foreheads tend to slope. Interesting. A quick point on the autism thing as well is that to some degree, this actually just might be normal male behavior. Some degrees of autism, some lower forms of it, and we're just classifying it as a mental illness now because, well, you know, the world is gynocentric. The same reason why little boys are punished in school for doing little boy things when school is a female environment run by females and often feminine men. It's really funny. I was at my daughter's graduation. You guys might remember because we did a drive through graduation. It was ridiculous. I really sucked. But anyways, my daughter's oldest daughter's high school graduation. There was a big line wrapped around the building, and we were doing the ends justify the means. We were having Wes Y11 on, and it was like really late, unfortunately, but it worked. In any case, I was commenting to my wife and her friend and my daughter about the male teachers, and you could tell who the coaches were and the gym teachers were because they were all very athletic, masculine, and all of the females, every single one of the female teachers were fawning over them. And the obviously gay or very effeminate or more soft men that were there that were teachers, they did not give the time of day. I couldn't hear their conversations, but I could see their behavior. In females, fat gets deposited between the organs. In females, or sorry, in males, it gets deposited between the organs. In females, it forms rings around the abdomen. This is going to be determined a lot by where your fat stores are at, males and females. But yes, we get it more men around our organs. That may, you could say, from an evolutionary perspective, be important for, cushioning organs for battle, whereas females have that extra fat more for supply for food for their children, right? Perhaps unexpectedly, males have longer eyelashes on average. The first finger in females' hand is usually longer than the third, while males, it's usually the other way around. And that's also an indication of high testosterone, the difference between those. And you can see that in females as well. This is a high predictor in young children for prenatal testosterone. While they're developing as a fetus in the womb, if there are high levels of testosterone, it will change your features. If you're a female, it will make you more masculine. This is real science, guys. The only females can pass mitochondrial diseases on their offsprings. Only females can. But, science doesn't know the difference. It's hard to tell. We don't really know. We don't know. Males are 3 to 10 times more likely to stutter. That might explain some things. Women are actually better at languages in general because they're more social. We have different mating strategies, things I'll bring up. Although both sexes lose hearing on either end of the spectrum, males tend to lose more hearing of high-pitched sounds, while females tend to lose more hearing of low-pitched sounds. People have noted that it takes time and it goes, males and females literally lose the ability to hear each other. Females are significantly better at distinguishing between shades of various colors than males. And that would make sense too, why females like colors a lot more than males. And as a person who grew up as an artist and as an artistic person, I have a proclivity to do that as well. I can differentiate a lot better than a lot of other people. But again, that's the spectrum, right? On average, females are better at this. Holly says, I have a longer middle finger. What does this mean? I don't know, Holly. Do the research. But you might be, given some of the stuff that you did in the past, and, I know you've feminized yourself over the years more than instead of having that chip on your shoulder. And you might just be a more high testosterone female, especially given, like most females don't do Muay Thai for years. That's just not a typical female thing. And it's not because society condition women not to think that they can fight. No, that's not it at all. In fact, if anything, ancient societies would have to more condition women to fight. Women don't tend to want to fight. They fight in different, more brutal ways that are psychological, they're emotional. Blood flow is more evenly distributed in the male body. In females, it is uh, concentrated. Concentrated. Oh, okay. The dyslexia is good, right? Concentrated around core organs in the pelvic region. Why would that be? Well, for survival. Again, why is it that women are always cold and men are run on average at a higher body temperature? But there's no difference. We can't tell. We don't know. We don't know what the difference is. There's about 1,000 genes that vary between males and females with regard to the liver. 1,000 genes, folks. This is why the sexes process everything from alcohol to Tylenol at different rates. You ever notice how girls are lightweights when it comes to drinking? And I'm a small guy, you know. I run around about 150 pounds, like 5'6". I'm not a big dude, so there are plenty of women that are closer to my size. I can still drink them under the table, right? But yeah, there's no differences. Females tend to have broader faces than males. The external occipital protuberance, the bump on the back of the skull, is bigger on males than females. The male jawbone is heavier than the female jawbone. And men and women tend to prefer eating different kinds of foods as well. Women tend to be more carb centric. They like sweet things. Men tend to like more savory things. Some studies have found men to have more standard deviations in IQ. This has been spun up by the media to partially account for why both more mentally handicapped individuals as well as geniuses tend to be male. Spun up by the media. What? No, the media tends to draw more conclusions from inconclusive studies. There's nothing inconclusive there. That is the truth. Women average, and if you look at the bell curve, women tend to average between the 100, that is average, and 120 IQ range, right? Which is when you're getting up to 130, you're in the 98th percentile or something like that. So, meaning that, 98% of people you're going to run into are not going to have your IQ. Men are on the further reaches. There's far more mental retardation amongst men, right? Women tend to gather a greater proportion of energy from aerobic respiration. Men to spend more time in anaerobic respiration, speaking respectively. We also have larger muscles meant to do that, more fast twitch fibers. The top edge of the eye socket is much sharper in females than in males. This is another way that you can tell from a skeleton. All these transgender males will be dug up in 1,000 years and they will be called females. I can promise you. Females have better peripheral vision than males, while males are typically better at scanning. This is thought to have an evolutionary origin. Hunters versus gatherers. Ooh, yeah. Same with hand-eye coordination and a bunch of other stuff. During heart attacks, males experience classic symptoms like chest pains, jaws, while females, the symptoms can be quite diverse. In fact, it can often be confused as heartburns. Females, blood contain more water, about 20% less red blood cells. Interesting, right? But we're exactly the same. Although female brains are better at many other tasks, male brains are geared towards giving them better spatial cognition. And again, they state that the evolutionary reason for this is so that men could get back to the village, right? To the hut, to where the children were and the women. Females tend to get motion sickness more easily, especially if they are pregnant. That's for sure. My wife never got motion sickness until she was pregnant. She didn't have a lot of morning sickness. She got nauseous. She only threw up like once. But man, we were the birthing classes we were going to. We had to take some windy roads to get there, and I had to find a way to get there more directly. I should say not directly, but less windily. Males die more from almost every disease except breast cancer, female reproduction disorders, and benign tumors. Holly's saying color differentiation evolved as well. Well, again, I don't necessarily believe in all the evolutionary things, but I will make the arguments because I understand where they come from. I would suggest that that these, of course, could just be explained by, God giving them to us. But that's a whole nother topic. So here is a another one. I had to throw this on archive because for some reason I kept going back. But this is from the Brave New World. This is also this lady, this very lovely mother here has a YouTube video, but you guys should go check it out. 50 real differences. A few years old, so I remembered and had pulled this up. So from the very time that you're born, uh, the male retina is thicker. It has more M cells. The M cells are larger and are distributed across the retina. M cells are responsible for tracking the movement of objects. Females' retinas is thinner, with the P cells. Sorry, guys, I lost my mouse there. And they're smaller and concentrated around the centers of the retina and are responsible for identifying objects. You literally see the world differently. You observe the world in a different way if you are a female than if you are a male. Female bodies like faces, male bodies like moving objects. Boys and girls like to draw different things. Girls prefer to draw people, animals, and plants arranged symmetrically and facing the viewer. They're more likely to use lots of colors. Boys mostly draw action scenes and dramatic movement. I could show you some of my drawings from when I was young. That is exactly. I have drawings in from fifth grade. Make my little comics. Guys with like arms chopped off and stuff. So, with blood and everything. I mean, I draw that in school. I never got in trouble for it. My parents didn't care, so whatever. Females hear better than males. Music affects us differently. Premature baby girls who received music therapy had fewer complications, grew faster, and were able to be discharged earlier than other ones didn't. Earlier than the ones that did not. There was no effect on premature baby boys. Males will block out certain sounds, and this goes on. There's 50 of them, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to some other stuff. But go check this out, guys, if you're interested. I had just archived it, but that's the address up there. But let's talk about the brain real quick. The genetics of sex differences in brain and behavior. Abstract. Biological differences between men and women contribute to many sex-specific illnesses and disorders. Historically, it was argued that such differences were largely, if not exclusively, due to gonadal hormonal secretions. Right, testosterone primarily. However, emerging research has shown that some differences are mediated by mechanisms other than the actions of these hormone secretions, and in particular by products of genes located on the X and Y chromosomes. What? You mean that the XY chromosomes not only decide if you have a penis or a vagina, but they also dictate behavior? Wow. Which we refer to as direct genetic effects. This paper reviews the evidence for direct genetic effects on behavior and brain sex differences. We highlight the 4 core genotype models and sex differences in the midbrain dopaminergic system, specifically focused on the role of seer. I don't know what that is. We also discuss novel research being done on the unique populations, yada, yada, yada. And, again, you can read this whole paper. I'm not going to have the time to do that, folks. Nor do I want to bore you with a paper. This is all easily researched. Some of this I had ahead of time. Most of it I put together this morning. Here we have the two sexes are differentiated as female who have ovaries and produce eggs, and males who have testes and produce sperm. In mammals, females typically have XX chromosomes and males have XY chromosomes. All sex differences in zygotes or fertilized eggs, semen, zygotes or fertilized eggs stem from harboring 2 different sex chromosomes. And that was Eureka alert. Biological differences between females and males need to be considered in scientific studies. From Stanford Medicine, two minds, the cognitive differences between men and women. Say what? We have cognitive differences? Yes, we look and see and approach the world differently. Why is that? Is it just because of those hormones and those XY chromosomes? Is it because of those bodily structures that are different? Yes. And it's because of our mating strategies and our duties once we do mate as caretakers of the innocent, that is our children. The cognitive difference between men and women. Uh, so yeah, it says when Noreo, I don't know. Shaw decided in 1988 to study sex-based differences in the brain using up to the minute molecular tools. He didn't have a ton of competition, but he did have a good reason. And, again, you can go through this. It talks about some of the differences, behavior differences. In 1991, just a few years before Shaw launched his sex differences research, Dane Helper, PhD, past president of the American Psychology Association, the APA, I'm going to show you some lies from the APA, began writing the first edition of her acclaimed academic text, Sex Differences and Cognitive Abilities. So again, this is Stanford Medicine. What do they know? Biological differences between men and women. The disease disproportionately affects older people and has the highest death toll in men, who make up around 75% of reported deaths. So this lady is currently investigating sex differences and age-related diseases, saying that based on epidemiological data, which real epidemiology, not food epidemiology, is actually pretty decent. In any case, when you're studying diet, that stuff's not real epidemiology. Doing food surveys is not real science, guys. From India and studying the data from Italian and Chinese cases of COVID-19, the disease disproportionately affects older people and has the highest death toll in men, who make up around 75% of reported deaths. And a lot of that's probably lifestyle choices, but it may be genetic factors as well. Of course, the ladies, I'm sure the feminists, they got mad that they weren't dying at the same rate as men, right? Biological sex differences, bones and muscle. What? We have differences in bones and muscle? What are the differences between male and female skeletons? Women are shorter, about 9% on average. Nigerians have the smallest record height difference between the sexes at 4%, while the UAE are 11% taller than their women. There you go, Spook. I don't know if you're watching today. I haven't really looked at the chat much, but speaking of which, let me check up on chat real quick. Oh, wow. I got Strippy over here. And Val. Hey, Val, what's up? Over on the Entropy. Strippy's the best, isn't he? Isn't it? I'm just going to call you an it because I don't know what you are. Male bones are bigger and stronger, both size and density. Nuh-uh, imagine that. You mean having thicker, more dense muscles and faster twitch muscle fibers, putting more mechanical load on your skeletal structure creates larger bones and denser bones? Color me shocked. Peak male bone mass around 50% is around 50% more than women's. And women lose bone mass much quicker. Osteoporosis is primarily a disease that affects women. Women and men have the same number of ribs. Well, duh. We have 12 pairs, though some people are born with 11 or 13 to no ill effect. Yeah, that was a medieval or whatever. It's just the Bible never even says that men and women have different number of ribs. Men have bigger heads and longer arms and legs than women relative to body size. The biological difference of an adult skeleton can be determined with 95% accuracy by measuring the hip bones alone. I can tell you by looking at them. I don't have to measure them because I have studied biology. I was in school to be a physical therapist, folks. I can tell you, I can look at a hip bone and instantaneously tell you if it's a female. 83% accuracy by skull and 80% accuracy by long bones, the femur and the tibia. Women's elbows and shoulders are slightly different from men's. Our arms bend a little further from our bodies. Yeah, women are generally more hypermobile. Here's the finger length thing again. Uh, Greater exposure to androgens in utero leads to a fourth ring finger that is longer than the second index finger as seen in men. So that's, let me flip it around so you guys can see. You see how my ring finger, you can see my nasty fingernails that I bite. Um, but yeah, yeah, you can see how my ring finger is longer. Women have a longer torso, larger female pelvis, and then it's talking about heads and so forth and so on, eyesight, uh, and just on and on and on and on with data. Intensive resistance training. Men have massive upper body strength advantage, but women do somewhat better off with lower body muscles. Females generally have 40% less skeletal muscle than males on the top half, 33% less below the waist. So there is a misnomer out there that males and females actually have the same strength in the lower body, and that's just not true. It's mechanically not possible for females to have the same strength at the same size as men. And that's the only way to compare this, folks. You have to compare people at the same size, general size, right? And so if you're taking a woman who's 6'2" and you're comparing her to me, there's going to be differences. I'm probably still going to be stronger than her, but there's going to be differences. Men also have lower body strength advantage. It says 70 kilogram elite male athletes can squat 35% more weight than 70 kilogram elite females. Oh, look at that. I didn't even read ahead. And that's what it says. This goes up to 57% more when both athletes are 120 kilograms. Look at that. The bigger the women are and the bigger the men are, the more strength advantage goes to the men. Men's muscles are more solid. Type 2. Yeah, that's just all stuff I knew off the top of my head. That's why I brought it up. Anyways, man, go read. Go educate yourselves, right? Chapter 1. This is from Science Direct, right? Structural differences between male and female brains. What? There's differences? And there's a ton of them. That again, I don't have all the time to go through. Even The Atlantic, at least way back in 1988, talked about the differences between males and females. Here we have Healthline. Men and women's brains are wired differently. But what does that mean? It means lots of stuff. It means that we have different modes of living because we have different modes of procreating. How men's brains are wired differently than women's brains from Scientific America. Male brains have more connections within hemispheres to optimize motor skills, while female brains are connected more between hemispheres to combine analytical and intuitive thinking. So men are better at physical athletic skills. It's almost like the jobs that men pick are more geared toward that. And the jobs that women pick are more geared toward thinking and also socializing. It's primarily what women work in is social skills. Why do you think in our gynocentric society, there are all these social workers and teachers and all these movements that are pushed by women? See, the problem though, I don't blame the women. I blame the men. The men aren't leading. You all have gave up your birthright as leaders, as natural leaders, as God intended you to be. You gave it up to the women so you could get easy ass. That's what happened. 100% what happened. Sometimes evolution doesn't have a logical reason. Yeah, if evolution is real. I mean, I believe in adaptability, but there is no evidence that all species came from one species. That's just not that's not that's a literally someone's perspective being put onto the evidence. And the evidence suggests that all of a sudden zillions of species appeared out of nowhere. We don't know how or why. Zillions, not technically. I'm being facetious, but yes. Many. Here we have from Psychology Today, male and female brains, are they wired differently? And we just scroll down a little bit. Men are better able to perform tasks. Uh, Single tasks, women are better at multitasking. Most of us know this stuff, you know? Battle of the brains. Here we have an infographic. So, men versus women. It's not all about gray matter, size, brain chemistry. In studies examining connections with the brain, it has been found that women tend to have stronger connections side to side, which could lead to better intuitive thinking, analyzing, and drawing of conclusions. This is also, by the way, what they believe psychedelics do is they allow the connections to or they allow the communication to work in your brain better. That's according to MAP, the organization that currently is studying this stuff. I met their president once. He's a really cool guy. Men, on the other hand, tend to have a stronger connections from front to back, which can result in heightened perception and strong motor skills. Recent studies have also suggested that the cerebellum, historically thought only to involve the coordination of movement, may be slightly different between the sexes and actually have an effect on behavior and thinking as well. In addition to brain processing patterns, men and women have different brain chemistry. While both processes the same neurochemicals, they process them differently. So you metabolize these things differently. For example, serotonin, which is connected to happiness and depression, does not process the same in women. This could explain why women are more susceptible to anxiety and depression. Yeah, and they are. Look at the numbers, the personality psychology. Why do you think women in charge want to treat everyone like they're little children? Let me see if I can get this image. Here we go. Male brain, 10% larger. Strong side-to-side connection on the female, stronger front to back in the males. Optimized for motor learning, optimized for intuitive thinking. Possible health impacts, more likely to develop alcohol dependence, 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, 4 times more likely to have autism, twice as likely to develop Parkinson's disease. And that's the cost of being a man. For a woman, twice as likely to have depression, twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's in the US, only in the US. I would suggest that's because it's probably in the West as a whole, actually. I would suggest that's because the high amount of refined sugar that we have in our society and access to it, and sweets, and women eat a lot more. Women do tend to be more often diabetic than men as they age. Generally, you're going to find a lot more heart disease in men, and women sort of living longer with diabetes, right? 4 times more likely to develop multiple sclerosis, more likely to have a stroke. There you go. Sex differences in brain anatomy. An analysis more than 2,000 brain scans show sex differences in the volume of certain regions, yada, yada, yada. We can go on, go forth, read through all this stuff. It's just a rehash of what I said. This is from the NIH. Neuroscientists and psychiatrists explain 6 ways male and female brains can differ. Imagine that. It's almost like it's one of the reasons why we have conflict between the sexes. And why you don't have, well, you do have conflict amongst homosexual couples, but you don't have the same kind of barriers as well to, let's say, mating. Now, in their case, it's all about pleasure and narcissism. In our case, we actually like to procreate. There's nothing wrong with the pleasure aspect of it. When you love and care about somebody, right, it helps deepen your bond. It's the thing that actually helps keep men and women together. I hate to say it. I hate to be so based, but sex is really the reason why men and women get along. The pleasure of it. Like, we definitely complement each other, but that little particular thing, which is also why it's important to do it monogamously, because if you can do it with anybody, it's meaningless. The science of sex differences is nothing for feminists to be afraid of. This is from Quartz. And again, this should be a pretty good read to go through, but I got about 10 minutes, so I'm not going to be able to go through all of this. But yeah, this is just women having penis envy. That's all that this thing is. And maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's demoralizing and destructing the society. Yeah, yeah, sure. It's that too. It's destroying identities so that we can put in our new identity, right? I mean, here we can look at mating strategies, evolutionary influences on mate preferences, what men and women really want. I mean, dude, this is like old news. Desmond Morris's The Human Sexes was out when I was like in middle school or something on TLC or whatever channel it was on. Discovery, one of those channels. Like real anthropology, real anthropologists have studied this stuff for a long time. They know what's going on. Not the pseudo stuff you hear about today. Here we have I don't know why this is like this. Let me see if I can get this. Here we go. Weird. A multivariate analysis of women's mating strategies and sexual selection on men's facial morphology. And there's channels on like, there's stuff like on Netflix that talk about this and YouTube, whatever else. Strategies of human mating, an abstract. It's a full PDF, 22 pages. And then here, back to Brave the World, we have mating strategies. You can go check that out. This is from 2016. You know, the funny thing is it feels like it's 2016 again, but not even, it feels like it's 2014. We already hashed out all the stuff, whatever. I've been seeing stuff about the gender pay gap again. It's like Obama's back in office, folks. We have high gas prices, recession. It's amazing. It's amazing. Now, there is a ton more that I have, but I'm going to bring up just a few things. And I want to show you some lies. Neurosexism, the myth that men and women have different brains. This is not a myth. This is science. This person is being completely absurd. And if you go through this, I don't know that there is any actual real science to this, just a few mentions of articles about how this came about and why it's probably wrong and how it's neurosexism, the history of sex differences research, it is rife with enumerances, misinterpretations, publication biases, weak statistical power, inadequate controls, and worse. Rippion, a leading voice against the bad neuroscience of sex differences, uncovers so many examples in an ambitious look as she uses a whack-a-mole metaphor to evoke eternal cycle. See, this is a woman that envies men. She wants everyone to be the same. She wants to be like a man. She wants the power of a man, but she's a woman. I'm sorry. You just are. Deal with it. And it goes through. The genderized brain reveals conclusive findings about sex-linked brain differences have failed to materialize beyond the missing 5 ounces of female brain gloated about. So she throws a few things in here. And again, we're talking about the history, right? These are appeals to emotion. This isn't data. And I'm not going to sit here and say that some of these studies aren't bunk, because they probably are. Because, you know, I used to do this, go through studies all the time, much like Aiden does. Aiden Paladin, that is. I used to do it on my own, right? And I would debunk it. I would do this with dietary studies for years. This is how I know the things I know, guys. I used to read way more than I do now. I just have a half decent memory and tend to be able to recall and at least find my way back to information I found before. So it talks about all this cultural past, yada, yada, yada. Again, I'm not going to get into it. Here we have from Science Daily. The sexes have equal spatial cognition skills. No, they don't. Oh, sorry, I didn't pull it up yet. No, they don't. They don't. They can read maps the same, such as map reading. This is a principal finding from groundbreaking work. No. Notice the date there, 2020, University of Limerick. Men are not better than women at spatial cognition, such as map reading, is a principal finding. Yeah, except for there's decades of studies suggesting otherwise. And I hate to be an armchair philosopher here, but my personal experience and everyone else's seems to denote otherwise. Men tend to be better drivers, except for, when we're driving crazy because we take more risks, which is why they have higher insurance. But when it comes to like actually maneuvering vehicles in the spatial relations, yeah, we know this. We know that there are studies of taking women through hallways who are blindfolded, can't find their way back. Men know exactly where to go. They know what turns they made. Now, again, is this 100%? No. My wife is great at direction. She's actually really good at it. But that's not what we're talking about here. It's not about the spectrum. Just because it exists doesn't mean it, it's a rule for everybody, right? We're looking at the broad way that we structure and organize society and think about things. Think again, men and women share cognitive skills. Research debunks myths about cognitive differences. And yeah, you can go through this. I mean, some of the stuff might be true, but the reality is we know that there are differences. Here's another lie. There are no big differences. I just showed you all kinds of physiological and neurological differences. Here's Pew. This is really the heart of matter. No consensus on nature versus nurture. Yeah, because there are some people who are ideologically possessed and others who actually just want to find the truth, which I suppose is an ideology unto itself. The conversation. You don't have a male or a female brain. The more scientists study, the weaker the evidence for sex differences. Absolute lie. Notice the date on that. And here we have massive study reveals few differences between men and women's brains. So, a few things in something so complicated as your brain, by the way, might make a massive difference. But I just told you again how some of those differences played out. Now, physiologically, because this is everyone's favorite new topic, right? We talk about Leah Thompson or anyone else. Physiologically, a man competing against a female is unfair. Knees are casualties of women's sports. There may be a few sports that women are actually going to be more geared toward than men. I would have to think about that and consider it. But for the most part, men are going to outperform women in nearly everything. So here's the anatomy of the problem. Why are women's knees, in a sense, are Achilles' heel? Since a woman has a wider pelvis, her femur thigh bone descends into her knee at an inward angle. The end. Mic drop. It's a difference. You cannot transmit force directly into the ground the same way. Again, this is a popular subject. Everybody who knows anything about sports science, who knows anything about kinesiology, biomechanics, knows this. The differences contribute to women athletes being more than twice as likely to tear their anterior corticular ligament, the ACL, as men, a figure that varies by sport. Female basketball players have a 3.5 times greater incident of ACL tears compared to the male counterparts, and a 2.8 times greater for soccer. Why knee pain and women may start in the hips? It does start in the hips. I have a knee problem because I have a messed up hip. That's not because I have female hips. It's because it's because I injured myself years ago and I never got full mobility back. And I think it's also because I drive a clutch, and when you drive a clutch in traffic, yeah, you're using your leg a lot. Women are more prone to knee injuries than men, and so forth. Weaken the knees, you might be a poster child for women's athletics, like college basketball star Jamie Waltz. Yeah. So here's just another article I had. I mean, I had plenty of stuff to talk about today, guys. Plenty of things. More than anything, I just wanted to run through a rapid, quick shot of how this is nonsense. I'll bring up articles. I didn't have time to read them. I was going to read some of them, but look at the other articles that I brought up. Go back through. Go look at the stuff, the arguments they're making. You make up your own mind. I'm pretty sure that the armchair philosopher in me knows that men and women are quite different, and it's pretty screwed up and pretty sad when we have individuals who are in our court system who are playing these ideological games. And it's pretty sad when the media covers for them. So sorry, guys. I don't have more time to go through the chat. Otherwise, I would. I got Samuel. Thank you for $3. Sorry, I haven't donated before now. Bill, love what you do. You're awesome. Thank you very much, Samuel. Val says, leaving work. Life has been busy. Glad to pop in when I can. Thanks, Val. I appreciate that. You guys, that always, helps me out. Let's see. Do I have anything on Rumble? No, just two watchers. But yes, believe it or not, $2, $3, $5, anything you send me, that adds up, guys. If you guys send that. So I appreciate it, but there's no obligation. Very much appreciated. Anyways, I should be back Sunday in the siesta stream. I probably will stream all this week. My wife is out of town with the baby. So not only do I get to sleep, I get to do whatever I want. No, I still have work, but I will be, it'll be a lot easier for me to stream because I won't have to be taking care of my daughter, right? So uh, I hope to see you guys Sunday on the siesta stream around 3 p.m., maybe 2 p.m., because I think I'm supposed to work at 5. I have to check my schedule. But look for me, I think Tuesday as well, and then next Friday as well. So again, I don't know how consistent I can be, but I will be trying to stream as much as I can, 3 days a week on this channel if I can. Any more than that gets to be a little bit too much with the other show, the Ends Justify the Memes. You guys know where to find that. If you don't, and this is your first time watching, I do have another show. It's another channel. It's a comedy show. It's a little bit different. It's, it's all my musings and wrapped up into memes. We do the meme cast news, the real fake news. It's a good time. We have fun with it. So go over there every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Go over there, give that a sub if you haven't yet. Go find me on Rumble. Please, I will get the Odysee up soon. But man, I mean, this stuff is just absurd. It's absurd to even talk about in this day and age. And let me remind you that they're the Democrats, the left, they're the party of science. All right, guys, that's all I got. This has been All Minus One. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.